Alright guys, welcome back to another successful Fiji Downwinder. Got some gear there for you to look at. Using the Spitfire, so that's kind of new. It's a more surfy front foil. And the 0.5 plus Shim also stands out to me. So I'll probably get into why I'm using those. You can get a view of the water here. It's not a very long sequence before I'm up for the paddle up, but you can see the bumps here aren't very steep. They're kind of wide and flat. That's fine and still usable. It might make things a little bit more tricky though. I can also see that the water's looking just a touch glassy, which means I probably don't have much wind assistance. Having the wind at your back for paddling up and even riding is quite an advantage. It gives you some free forward speed, and forward speed means that your foil's activated, so you're probably getting free stability by having a breeze at your back. This is the perfect drone angle here. You can see it has the same view that I have, and notice that I don't look back. So I'm just going by my senses right now. I'm waiting for a bit of a surge from the board, and then what I need after that is access to some downhill. I call them runways. So you don't want to start paddling and have to paddle uphill. See that there? I've got a dip in front of me and I'm going to paddle across it, and that means I can lift my board over that dip, and it's just easier to peel the board up. I can see that my front foot, I've just adjusted it. My front foot was a little bit too far forward. That leaves your front foot only really one job to do, and that's pitch control. It's not really taking much of your weight. So that leaves your back foot doing all the work, carrying your weight, and loads up more during turns. And that's just not really sustainable. It's also not very fun either. So if you're like me and you have a bad habit of having your front foot too far forward, maybe think about trying to move it back towards the pressure to take more of the workload. That'll leave you feeling more balanced in your runs. It'll give you some more longevity, and it makes your turns feel better. Having that G-force coming through the front foot is much more controlled than coming through the back foot. Doing some pumping here. There's not really much steepness for me to access. I'm onto it now, but if there's nothing, just keep your speed high and keep your mast height up reasonably high as well. So I got the 56 centimeter fuse on today, this silly short. I kind of go backwards and forwards between that one and the 60 centimeter fuse. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but it's actually quite a lot of difference as far as feel goes on the water. Using the shorter fuse allows you to turn in tighter arcs. That's really, really good. But if you're not actually doing turns that are that tight, then you're not actually using anything that small fuse gives you. So if you're not hitting the limits of your equipment like that, you might actually consider sizing up. So on this run, if I'm not doing really tight turns and utilizing that small fuse, I would actually be better off on the 60 centimeter. The reason for that will just be more control and smoother movements. And if I'm doing turns where I can feel like I'm leaning up against the pressure of that gear, it's way more stable. If you're using gear that has more performance in it than you can access, that often leaves it feeling twitchy and out of control. There's something nice about using bigger gear and, and really being able to master it and maximize its attributes. The other thing I've got for this run is that positive shim. And the idea behind that was to create some more pressure through the front of the board. I'm hunting more of a 3D feeling out there now, and I think that might add some smoothness to my riding. When I watch my turns, I'm watching me do micro adjustments in the middle of them, and to my eye it just doesn't look right, and it makes me think that something's wrong with my system. I'm using a shim to try and change that and create forward and upward pressure. And the beauty of that is if you've got lots of pressure coming through your front foot, all you have to do is counter that pressure. It just gives you one direction to think about, and that's pressing down. If you've got quite a neutral system and you're doing turns, well then sometimes you have to press down, but you also have to lift up. And just having one of those options removed just gives you way less to think about, and it's a more natural feeling. So if you're finding turns difficult, maybe just try add a positive shim to your setup. It doesn't cost much, it's not that committing, and it's easy to remove and travel with. And I think go for a positive shim over a negative shim, because I think that pressure will do you wonders. The downside of the pressure is maybe if you're in overpowered settings, you might be even more overpowered, and it will create a little bit of drag in the system. But besides that, I'm actually really enjoying the positive shimming. When you're learning, you probably want to keep your speed high. If you've got a nice energy source, use it to speed up and then move on, probably much earlier than you think. Traveling across a valley there. Peak's just gone by, so I'll probably turn behind it. That's a nice peak in front of me. Nice drawn out bump. You know that thing's going to be containing some good energy. I'm getting some nice flow in some of these turns. You know it's a good sequence if you don't have to pump afterwards. I'm always looking for somewhere to do a turn. I've moved my mast back 1.5 centimeters for these runs. The idea of that was to have less board out behind me, because I've now understood that having more board in front of me is not much of a sacrifice. Constantly tapping down the back of the board is a real pain in the backside. So thinking about that makes me think that I've forgotten that I'm on a board with the mast back a little bit, and I'm still standing in my usual spot. So there's a chance that my stance is 1.5 centimeters too far forward. See the waves slowly breaking over the reef there, just above me. I've tried going in and surfing those, but actually they run almost too slow. They're surprisingly gutless. Alright, we've made it to the inside. Another successful run. I hope you've got something from that about shimming. Really think about it for yourself. I'm sitting here right now with a bit of a hip injury, so it just reminds me to remind you to take it easy, make sure you stretch and hydrate and look after yourself. You really should be aiming for longevity for this sport. It's too good not to. See ya.